Mary stood in her kitchen, staring at the 2 coffee mugs she'd automatically set out that morning. It had been 3 years since Robert passed, yet some mornings, her body moved on autopilot, preparing for a day that would never come again. She carefully put the second mug back in the cabinet, her hands trembling slightly as she whispered, "Old habits die hard." If you've ever found yourself setting an extra place at the table, turning to share news with someone who's no longer there, or feeling that hollow ache when you realize you're talking to an empty room, you're not alone. Millions of senior widows and widowers find themselves trapped in invisible cycles that silently chip away at their healing and happiness. What if I told you that some of the things you do every day, things that seem perfectly normal or even helpful, might actually be keeping you stuck in grief? The routines that once brought comfort might now be the very things preventing you from finding joy again. Today, we're talking about 7 everyday habits that can quietly break your spirit when you're navigating life after losing your spouse. These patterns are so subtle that most people never recognize them, but once you do, everything can change. Stay with me until the end, because the last habit we'll discuss is perhaps the most surprising and the one that medical professionals rarely mention. Yet addressing it could be the turning point in reclaiming your sense of purpose and happiness. Habit number 1, isolating yourself for their protection. Your children and grandchildren call to check on you. Friends invite you to lunch. The community center has a new book club, but you find yourself saying no more often than not. "I don't want to be a burden," you tell yourself. They have their own lives to worry about. Meet Eleanor, a 68-year-old former teacher who lost her husband James after 42 years of marriage. "I started turning down invitations because I didn't want my sadness to ruin everyone else's good time," she told me. "I convinced myself I was protecting them from my grief." What Eleanor didn't realize was that this well-intentioned habit was actually making things worse. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that social isolation among seniors increases the risk of depression by 50% and can accelerate cognitive decline. Our brains are wired for connection. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. When we isolate ourselves, our minds have no external input to challenge negative thought patterns. It's like leaving a record player with a scratch. The same painful thoughts play over and over without interruption. Instead of protecting others, try this approach. Accept at least 1 invitation each week. Start small if needed. Tell your loved ones honestly that you might not be the life of the party right now, but you'd like to be included. You'll discover that your presence, even in a quieter form, is still deeply valued. Most importantly, remember that allowing others to support you isn't a burden, it's a gift to them. Your children and friends want to help. Letting them do so gives them purpose in their relationship with you. Have you been turning down invitations because you don't want to bring others down? Type 1 in the comments if this resonates with you, and share 1 invitation you might accept this week. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment habit number 1 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Habit number 2, preserving everything exactly as it was. His toothbrush still sits in the holder. Her closet remains untouched, clothes hanging just as they were. The bedroom remains unchanged, as if your spouse might walk in at any moment. This is the story of Richard, a 73-year-old widower, who kept his wife Linda's nightstand exactly as she left it, the morning before her stroke, reading glasses, half-finished novel, lip balm, and all. Changing anything felt like erasing her, he explained with tears in his eyes. Grief counselors call this shrine making, preserving spaces and possessions as monuments to our loved ones. While it's completely normal in the early stages of grief, when this habit extends for years, it can create what psychologists call frozen grief, a state where moving forward feels impossible because you're literally surrounded by the past. Dr. Catherine Shear, director of the Center for Complicated Grief, explains that our brains need environmental cues that help us adapt to our new reality. When nothing in our surroundings changes, our minds struggle to process the loss. This doesn't mean throwing everything away or erasing all traces of your spouse. Instead, consider a mindful transition. Create a special memory box or dedicated space for the most meaningful items. Photograph rooms before making changes, if that brings comfort. Many widows find that gradually transforming spaces, Perhaps repainting a room or rearranging furniture can be both therapeutic and symbolic of their own transformation journey. William, another widower, found peace by donating his wife's extensive gardening equipment to a community garden where he now volunteers. "Her tools are still helping beautiful things grow," he said. "That feels right." What's one small change you could make to a preserved space that honors your spouse's memory while allowing you to move forward? If you've been keeping things exactly as they were, type 2 in the comments and share what's been hardest to change. Habit number 3, neglecting physical health and self-care. Remember how Sarah from our community always talked about her husband Tom being her reason for staying healthy? After he passed, she stopped taking her blood pressure medication regularly. "What's the point now?" she would say when we checked on her. This pattern is heartbreakingly common. Studies from the National Institute on Aging show that widowed seniors often experience a significant decline in self-care behaviors, from skipping medications to neglecting proper nutrition and physical activity. The science behind this is clear. Grief affects our brain's executive function, the part responsible for planning, self-monitoring, and maintaining routines. This combines with a decrease in motivation when the person we once stayed healthy for is gone. Additionally, the stress hormone cortisol, which increases during grief, can suppress your immune system and decrease energy levels. But here's the truth that Sarah eventually discovered. Your health matters now more than ever, not just for the people who love you, but for yourself. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires a mental shift. First, create simple systems that don't rely on memory. Pill organizers filled weekly grocery delivery services for nutritious foods, or scheduled walks with a neighbor that create accountability. More importantly, work on reframing your motivation. Dr. Maria Sullivan, a geriatric psychiatrist, suggests creating a health purpose statement, a single sentence that connects your self-care to something meaningful. For Sarah, it became, "I take care of my body to have the strength to volunteer at the Children's Hospital," something Tom and I always planned to do together. One widow in our community, Diane, placed sticky notes on her bathroom mirror with her why written on them. "Healthy grandma, more time with grandkids." Visual reminders can be powerful tools when motivation wavers. Have you found yourself neglecting health routines since losing your spouse? Type 3 in the comments if this strikes a chord with you, and share one small self-care habit you'll commit to this week. Habit number 4, avoiding financial decisions. The stack of mail grows taller on the kitchen counter. Insurance forms remain unfilled. Investment decisions get postponed month after month. This was the reality for Howard, a 71-year-old retired postal worker who lost his wife, Mabel, who had handled their finances throughout their 46-year marriage. "I'd rather do anything than look at those papers," Howard admitted. "It reminds me she's gone, and I'm afraid of making mistakes she wouldn't have made." Financial avoidance is one of the most dangerous habits for senior widows and widowers. According to the Women's Institute for Financial Education, 70% of widows change financial advisors within the first year, not because they're making proactive choices, but because they've avoided decisions until they reach a crisis point. The brain science explains why this happens. Financial decisions activate our brain's risk assessment centers. When we're grieving, these centers are already overloaded, making financial choices feel overwhelming. Additionally, handling money matters that were once your spouse's domain can trigger intense grief reminders. But here's why addressing this habit is crucial. Financial security directly impacts your ability to age with dignity and independence. Procrastination often leads to missed opportunities, penalties, or poor decisions made under pressure. The solution isn't to become a financial expert overnight. Start by sorting financial tasks into 3 categories: urgent bills, insurance claims, important investment reviews, estate planning, and eventually selling property, major financial changes. Address the urgent items first, even if it's painful. Consider finding a financial advisor who specializes in working with widows and widowers, someone who understands both the emotional and practical aspects of your situation. Many community centers also offer free financial literacy programs specifically for seniors. Martha, a 67-year-old widow, found a middle path. "I asked my son to sit with me while I opened the financial paperwork, not to make decisions for me, but just so I wasn't facing it alone. Eventually, I joined a widow's financial support group, and now I'm helping newer widows navigate their finances. Are you putting off financial decisions because they feel overwhelming or emotionally triggering? Type 4 in the comments if you recognize this habit and share one small financial task you'll tackle this week. Habit number 5, living in if-only scenarios. If only I had insisted he see the doctor sooner. If only we had taken that trip we always talked about. If only I had been a better spouse. These thoughts haunted Margaret, a 76-year-old widow who lost her husband to a sudden heart attack. I spent hours every day replaying our last conversation, imagining different endings, she shared. I was trapped in a world of what-ifs that I couldn't escape. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, mentally creating alternative versions of past events. For widows and widowers, these thoughts often center around regret, guilt, or fantasies about preventing the loss. Brain research shows that this habit actually activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. When we engage in persistent, if-only thinking, we're essentially rehearsing our grief rather than processing it. Robert Niemeyer, a grief researcher, explains that while occasional counterfactual thinking is normal, getting stuck in these thought patterns can lead to complicated grief and depression. The science is clear: our brains cannot differentiate well between vividly imagined scenarios and reality. When you repeatedly imagine if-only scenarios, your body responds with stress hormones, as if you're reliving the loss over and over. Instead of trying to banish these thoughts, which rarely works, try this approach. When if-only thoughts arise, acknowledge them gently, then redirect your focus to what is and what can. Some widows find it helpful to have a physical gesture, like snapping a rubber band on their wrist or touching a special piece of jewelry, to interrupt the thought pattern. Frank, a 70-year-old in our community, developed a practice of writing down his if-only thoughts once, then symbolically releasing them by tearing up the paper. It helps me acknowledge the thought without letting it take up permanent residence in my mind, he explained. Another helpful practice is to balance regrets with gratitudes. For every if-only thought, challenge yourself to recall 2 beautiful memories or aspects of your relationship that you're thankful for. Do you find yourself caught in the if-only trap? Type 5 in the comments if these thoughts visit you regularly, and share one strategy you might try to redirect your thinking when they appear. Habit number 6, defining yourself solely as the widower. When Thomas, age 69, joined our community center's painting class, the instructor asked everyone to introduce themselves. I'm Thomas, widower of 3 years, he said. Nothing about his 40-year career as an engineer, his love of jazz music, or his 3 grandchildren. Later, he explained, sometimes I feel like losing Elizabeth erased who I was before. Now I'm just the man whose wife died. This habit of defining yourself primarily by your loss is subtle but powerful. Research from the Journal of Aging Studies shows that seniors who strongly identify only as widows or widowers often struggle more with finding new purpose and meaning compared to those who maintain multiple aspects of their identity. The neuroscience behind this makes sense. Our brains create neural networks around our various roles and identities. When we stop exercising certain identity networks, artist, friend, volunteer, hobbyist, and only reinforce the widower network, those other pathways begin to weaken. Health psychologist Dr. Susan Quilliam explains that while acknowledging your loss is important, defining yourself solely by that loss can trap you in a perpetual state of grief rather than in a process of grief that evolves over time. The solution isn't pretending the loss didn't happen or matter. Instead, it's about reconnecting with the many parts of yourself that still exist alongside your grief. Ask yourself, who was I before I met my spouse? What parts of me existed independently of our relationship? Helen, a 74-year-old widow in our support group, made a simple but powerful change. When people ask about me, I now say, I'm Helen. I taught mathematics for 30 years. I have a garden that keeps me busy. I'm learning Italian, and yes, I'm also a widow. It's part of me, but not all of me. Try this exercise. Write down 5 identities you hold that aren't connected to being a widow or widower. Perhaps you're a grandparent, a gardener, a reader, a neighbor, a citizen, a friend, a learner, or a creator. Choose one of these identities to actively strengthen this week through a specific activity. Has your identity become centered primarily around being a widow or widower? Type 6 in the comments if you recognize this pattern in yourself, and share one aspect of your identity you'd like to reclaim or strengthen. If you are still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment habit number 6 below to let me know you are here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Habit number 7, believing that finding joy dishonors their memory. This is perhaps the most heartbreaking habit of all, and the one we promised to reveal at the beginning. Dorothy, an 81-year-old widow, confessed something during our community gathering that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Last week, I caught myself laughing at a movie, really laughing, and immediately felt ashamed, like I was betraying Harold's memory by feeling happy without him. This belief that finding joy somehow dishonors your spouse's memory is rarely discussed openly, yet it silently affects countless widows and widowers. Many seniors report feeling guilty for simple pleasures, enjoying a sunset, laughing with friends, or feeling momentary peace. Dr. Catherine Shear's research at Columbia University Center for Complicated Grief found that this guilt about joy is one of the strongest predictors of prolonged, complicated grief. The psychology behind it is complex. Part loyalty to the deceased, part fear of forgetting, and part misunderstanding about what healing actually looks like. What many don't realize is that our capacity for joy honors our loved ones, rather than betraying them. Think about it. Would your spouse want you to deny yourself happiness for the rest of your life? Most widows, when asked this question directly, immediately say, "Of course not." Yet they still punish themselves for moments of joy. The neurological reality is that joy and grief can coexist in the brain. Experiencing positive emotions doesn't erase your love or memories. In fact, positive emotions help build resilience that allows you to carry your grief in healthier ways. James, a 77-year-old widower, found a powerful way to reframe this. "I started asking myself not what would Ruth think if she saw me happy, but what would Ruth want for me right now?" That changed everything. Try this approach. The next time you experience a moment of joy, followed by guilt, place your hand over your heart and say, "This joy honors the love we shared. You taught me how to be happy, and I carry that forward." Many in our community have found comfort in writing a letter to their deceased spouse, asking for permission to find happiness again. While it may seem unusual, this symbolic act often releases the self-imposed restrictions on joy. Eileen, age 73, shared, "After writing my letter to Robert, I realized he would be heartbroken to think his death sentenced me to a joyless existence. Now, when good moments come, I silently thank him for teaching me how to appreciate life's gifts." Have you ever felt guilty for experiencing moments of happiness after your loss? Type 7 in the comments if this final habit resonates with you, and share one small joy you'll allow yourself to fully experience this week, without guilt. As we've explored these 7 habits that can quietly break your spirit, remember that recognizing these patterns is the first step toward healing. Whether you identified with one habit or all 7, please know that you're not alone on this journey. Grief doesn't follow a timeline or a neat set of stages. It's a winding path that's unique for each person. But along that path, you deserve moments of peace, connection, and yes, even joy. And think about which of these habits resonated most strongly with you. Could you commit to making one small change this week? Perhaps accepting an invitation you would normally decline, sorting through one drawer of belongings, or simply allowing yourself to fully enjoy a beautiful moment without guilt. Your story isn't over. It's entering a new chapter. And while your loved one will always be a cherished part of your story, these habits don't have to define your future. I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Which of these habits do you struggle with most? What strategies have helped you break free from these patterns? Your insights might be exactly what another widow or widower needs to hear today. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support allows us to continue creating content that addresses the real challenges seniors face. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message, sharing is one of the kindest things you can do. Until next time, remember that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about finding new ways to carry both your love and your loss forward.